Hello and welcome to Healing Between Thoughts. Today we're going to talk about the power of the Jedi Code, and not just the power of the Jedi Code, but how it works in healing, something that we don't actually talk about a whole lot at all in medicine because it doesn't profit anybody. And so it seems like pseudoscience, right? But this is a thing that we who have done it know it's a real thing. Dr. Joe Dispenza has um, programs in which he talks to people about this phenomenon of being able to just miraculously do what medicine said was not possible, right? And or to remarkably like grow back parts of your body. And so we're gonna talk about that and anything that you have to do when it is just not supposedly humanly possible. So this is Healing Between Thoughts, and I appreciate that you're here wherever you're um, calling in from or viewing from. Go ahead and say hi in the notes, and you can ask questions there, and I will try to get to them. I can't guarantee it. Um, so the oops, and I'm just going to get the comments so that I am able to see them. We are live streaming on different platforms, and the streaming was a little bit glitchy today, so I just want to hopefully, if anything seems too glitchy, I'll just go off camera and you'll hear my voice. But the Jedi Code, I this is something that is kind of like a lot of us know about it, right? What's the Jedi? What's the Sith? What's the and how does it make us super effective people? So the Jedi Code, we are presenting the present. That place that you thought you were until you realized you were just thinking about it. You ever think you're there and then you realize that you're thinking about being there? That's the thing we're talking about. Everything in the Jedi Code is about presence. But even the present can trick us. We need to be present to intrinsic knowing. What is intrinsic knowing? It's not story knowing, and it's not book knowing, but it's knowing from the quiet place inside that is calm. And it's calm because we've abided with it. We have done the practice in this place. So the Jedi are removed by practice from emotional reaction and attachment. The Jedi Code, like most religious manifestos, is a book of wisdom that doesn't mince words. It's a sort of manual of the best practices when followed that will bring one to the behavior and control worthy of the Jedi. Does that make sense? So the Jedi are removed by practice by this from emotional reaction and attachment. There's a lot that says that the Jedi are removed from emotion, and that's if you've watched any of the movies, read any of the books in the Star Wars series. That's just not true. But it's the ability to be able to not be attached to that emotion, but to come into the intrinsic knowing. So what does a Jedi embody? A Jedi embodies an inner intrinsic connection to Source. There's on-demand calm. And on-demand calm, on-demand focus, and on-demand manifestation. The alignment with purpose and self-responsibility is what makes a Jedi be a Jedi. Now, the code's primary purpose is to guide the Jedi in maintaining self-control, discipline, and balance, thereby resisting the temptations of the dark side of the Force. It teaches followers to conquer negative emotions like anger and fear, which can lead to chaos and darkness. There's an alignment with the universe and unwavering support from the universe when we humans do this. So think of it this way. Think of berserkers in war. Think of stories you've heard with small women who lift cars off of their children if their children are underneath the car. Think of people who miraculously heal wounds, grow limbs, and cure diseases. This is the kind of alignment we're talking about with the universe, and that with that alignment comes this unwavering support. And if you follow some of the talk about it, it seems really woo. But in the movies, when we think about the Jedi, do we see it as woo or do we see it as part of the story? Whatever the story is that we have going on is our reality, and it shapes how we react, how we think, and how we are. And it actually adds to or subtracts from our power. Our story is like when you wear a Halloween costume and you can't be seen anymore. You become, at least in part, what you think of as that costume denoting. Do you ever go out and you probably don't do this every day, but you think about the thing that you're wearing. You might feel really good. Maybe you've worked out, and also you're wearing something that you feel terrific in. It might be new, or it might be an amazing dress that your sister gave you, or it may be something that you've come to be able to wear that you haven't worn in a long time in your closet, and you have the occasion to wear it, and you feel magnificent. When you feel magnificent, that is a state of mind, and from that magnificence, what we can manifest is greater than when we're in a state of less and lack. We're manifesting all the time. And this is something that Star Wars really, really, really knocks home. The Sith are manifesting the use of their power to transform themselves, and the use of their emotions, and their emotions are stories that take the love out, right? And that's where you see it there, but as you get later and later in the stories, it drives them crazy. and it separates them from themselves. And then there's and again, this is like a religious doctrine that um, is an allegory for how we can be most connected to the to our source. And this is really important. What is it for you that connects you to your source? That's where the Jedi self-responsibility comes in. It's not anybody else's responsibility but ours to do what it is that we're going to do, to change what it is that we're going to change, and to affect that change. We can't affect change in someone else because they have that authority themselves. If they don't have that authority and we have the focus and the authority, we may very well be able to affect change in them. And that's the thing in the what the Jedi embodies, is that when there's that power, when there is that internal authority, it creates the ability to change the situation, to change others, and to change themselves. So in practical terms, let's go back to how this, since this is a show about healing, how this affects what we can do for ourselves. Now, I mentioned a berserker in war, right? There's a berserker in war is like a manifestation of the Sith and the Jedi. Their purpose is here, and something has created wild energy in them from pent up emotion, and it comes out at once, and it takes care of the problem at hand because it's focused. So if you think about the I mentioned a small person lifting a car. We've heard of multiple instances of this happening, and I'm not talking like a small car, like a normal car, well over like a couple thousand pounds at least, right? This is what that kind of focus actually brings out to a person. You have the situation where the emotion in this is that something that you love is under the car, and so you lift the car to get to the something that you love. So this is like, if the Jedi Code is about presence, it's presence in ourselves, and that means not an external story and not the externals of all of the it's not the externals of all of the emotions, but it's the internal place where those emotions are actually living from the place of heart and the place of love. And that's where the Jedi is, where it becomes so powerful because of the connection to that source, that we have we have the ability to harness that connection to source. So, but let's say a small person, a mother with a child under a car. What happens there? We normally can't lift that car, right? And we think we can't lift that car, and we know that our muscles can lift X amount in, let's call it an empirical way, in a scientific way. There's muscle, there's effort, there's strain, and we can not lift that. But we have extra power, the extra power of, say, a mother and a child, and we lift the car. So this kind of focus on our intrinsic need, and it creates great power. So let's say that we are not, that we take out the part of the Jedi Code, which is the self-responsibility. And you say, I'm going to blame this thing in front of me, and it's their fault, and I'm angry. And well, there's focus in that, and there's power, and that focus gives you the power of the Sith. And they're actually very much the yin and yang in Star Wars. When, like I said, this is like a best practices, a manual of best practices for connecting to the source. If you connect to somebody else's source, blaming somebody else, whether that's real or not, you're connecting everything to a story. And if you connect just to, if you go into the place of inner calm with the Jedi, you don't have all those stories, and you have more of a clear vision of what it is that you have to do. So the alignment with the universe, the unwavering support from the universe with that, and the on-demand calm and on-demand manifestation, because there's not all the side stories and noise. All right? So let's look at this now for healing. Now, there's something that Dr. Joe Dispenza did that brought him to this same place that I'm at. He's gone further into this before I have, but what Dr. Joe Dispenza had happened for him was that he got in a bike accident, and suddenly he was, and I want to say hello to the people who are arriving just now in the audience. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And we're talking about the two parts, the yin and yang of the Jedi Code and the Sith Code, and how this really works to manifest what we want, what we don't want, how we focus that. So Dr. Joe Dispenza, he got in this bad bike crash, and his spine was really hurt. Okay. He wasn't supposed to be able to walk again. He wasn't supposed to be able to do anything again. And the doctors, in his case, wanted to fuse his spine because there were all these broken vertebrae. And part of him, there was a service that he came, that focused him. He said, if I can heal this myself, I can do the service of helping others. And so he really focused on this, and he meditated, and he manifested all the vertebrae, and they were regrown, recalibrated, and put into order. very woo, right? And but is it, or is it focus? And is it self-responsibility? And what is it that gets us there? So, going to the thing that so many of you know that I have done, um, is that I had a leg that didn't work, and then um, I had a surgery, and there was a tourniquet, and the tourniquet was left on, and I got no blood to my legs, so I ended up having all of the nerves die in the whole leg. And instead of putting blame on the doctors and blame and being a, being told and believing the story that I could never grow those nerves back, I said, no, I'm fine. I'm going to walk. And then I went into that same place that Dr. Joe Dispenza went, and I healed myself. And I grew back a meter of all of my nerves, sympathetic, sensory, and motor nerves. It's not possible. It's very woo, right? But we don't think of the woo when we're watching Star Wars. We think of the focus and the power, and wow, can they do it? Can they muster all that power? Can they connect to all that power? That is the power of the Jedi. And you are the Jedi. You have the ability to come in to this source and lift that car off your child. And you can come into that source and win the war by getting your berserker power. This is very, very real. How do we do it? So the thing about any religious doctrine that gives you the instructions, thank you. Just here doing what we do, right? You get these instructions from the Talmud, from the Bible, from the Jedi Code, and they give you these practices of how to be the Jedi, how to walk with God, how to be with Source. Why does it all have the same story? Because there's Source. And because when you come into yourself and your intrinsic knowing, that intrinsic knowing is what connects you to the source. And suddenly the noise of all those stories goes away. Um, Absolutely, Aaron. I mean, every religious doctrine that you have had, they're they're all saying the same thing, and they're not saying do this specific thing and eat the potatoes and do the, I don't know. It's they're stories for you coming in to your source and connecting to it, whatever your source is. This is how we heal. This is how the these stories of blindness that has gone away and suddenly there's sight. The story of the people who are crippled who suddenly can walk. That's what Joe Dispenza did. That's what I did. Do you know other people have done this? Have you done this? You've manifested. And it hasn't been woo. It just has been. And you might have scratched your head and said, why do I hit all the freaking traffic lights? Every single one, every time. It's not even like it doesn't make sense. It's not even possible. How can they always be red just for me? Because you believe it. Because that story is so strong in you that that's the story that you attach yourself to. Is that story helpful? Not really, but it affects your reality. When you connect to something bigger, when you connect to something bigger, you connect to your ability to lift the car, to win the war, to heal yourself. This and this is something that I know, and Dr. Joe Dispenza also, that we want people to heal. And some of this hurts if you come from a place of pain, and none of this denies the pain. The pain is where we grow. There's cancer. We think of cancer as the ultimate thing that we don't have, that gets us. It's like the culmination of all the diseases. There's all sorts of diseases that cause us pain and even death. But it's not really the death ever, is it? It's the pain. The death is the thing that's the how do I say this? It's how the stories stop. And we don't want the stories to stop. We're storytellers. And the people around us don't want the stories to stop. And as we go to all these feelings of the stories stopping, of what used to be, of the pain, and the pain is tremendous sometimes. Injuries and diseases. Dr. Joe Dispenza's spine being crushed, that hurt. My nerves being gone, that hurt. Cancer, it hurts. When we allow the pain to be and we hear it for what it is, and then we focus on our intrinsic knowledge of source, that's where we heal ourselves. This is what we're saying is, this is the Jedi power. And I can talk to this point as a preacher. I can talk about this from story. I can talk about this from any religious doctrine. What are they telling us to do but to focus and to heal and to be in the source? That is the source that gets us all to that place of the next thing. So here's another thing with the Jedi Code. So if we're removed from emotional reaction and emotional attachment, then and we're brought to control and the behavior that's worthy of the Jedi, we're intrinsically connected to that source, what else can we do? We're aligned with our purpose as a Jedi. We're aligned with our self responsibility, um, and thereby we resist the temptations of the dark side of the Force, and it teaches the followers to conquer those negative emotions like anger and fear, which can lead to the chaos and the darkness. The chaos and the darkness, they're noisy. They're really noisy. They take away from your focus. So when you remove those things, you end up being able to be in your purpose, and it brings you to that place of being superhuman, right? The thing about being superhuman is it's still human. It's superhuman. You do what it is that you want to do. This is, you do what it is that you love. And I probably sound like a broken record. What do you love? The Jedi Code is all about what do you love. Yes, not attached to emotions, not emotional reaction, but coming into that intrinsic love, and then boom, there's the power. This is the same power of great leaders. Now, there are leaders out there who you may not think are so great right now, right? I'm not going to even talk about what is great and what is not, but the power is in where the focus is. And if the focus is in your intrinsic love and connection to source and everything that is attached to that source, then your leadership is powerfully connected to you maintaining that source. If you're focused on fear and lack and getting the things that are getting the things that are hurting us, that we're afraid of, the fear and the darkness and the chaos, and trying to control that, when really what we can control is us and our intrinsic connection to the source, then all of our focus is really strong in dampening everything that actually keeps us alive. And that's another possibility of leadership style that is destructive. And it all has to do with where our focus is. It's incredibly powerful. And yeah, and yeah, Aaron, and it's also, it's like your not just your safety in the here and now, but like the divine safety. That's where the Jedi Code is focused, is the divine safety, the divine embodiment of the source, and that everybody can do this, right? And that the focus on the practice of discipline, the practice of I'm losing my words here, of detachment from the noise, the practice of our stories being focused on love. So back to the healing point of this. What is it that happens when someone manages to manifest healing? It's really not, boy, I wish this didn't hurt. I I wish I could say that it is, and maybe somebody has done this, has just wished so hard that this didn't hurt, and that it stopped hurting. But all of the manifestations of healing that I've ever observed in myself and in other people take heed and really sit with the pain and focus on the wholeness and on the love. That's the difference. It's focused on the source, and the source has a focus of love. If you ever manifest for your life, for just more goodness in your life, you will get a like a mantra for the day, right? And that mantra for the day is your focus, and it's your focus for your power. So if you're focusing your power on that thing, what if you're focusing the on a certain whole future? For Dr. Joe Dispenza, he focused on a whole spine so that he could go on and teach other people how to do it. He didn't even know it could be done. He was just like, boom, I'm going to heal this, and I'm going to teach other people how to do it. Me, I wasn't quite so altruistic. I was like, I'm going to go and be out with my bare feet in the grass and the dirt in the garden. And that's what I saw myself. I said, I'm going to walk. And then I went on and I worked in the industry that I was in. Dr. Joe Dispenza happened to be in the medical industry, in chiropractic. I was in music. I always am in music, but that was my industry. And I went back to that. But it wasn't that, boy, I really want to do that competition. No, it was like I want that feeling that I love. I am that feeling that I love. Dr. Joe Dispenza, I want a whole spine and the act of healing that spine. I am healing that spine. Connection to self-responsibility, connection to intrinsic source, and connection to what we love, and then being what we love. That is the Jedi way. The Jedi Code is a guide to help maintain self-control and discipline and balance, but it is being in the state that control provides that is the difference between just thinking about being there and actually being there. So I started this today talking about presenting the present, that place that you thought you were until you realized you were just thinking about it. Thoughts are really, really powerful. When we're thinking about thoughts, it starts to get noisier. but there's a lot of good that comes in this. I mean, thinking about thoughts can be like daydreaming. Daydreaming can be the space between thoughts. I love that kind of of um, daydreaming, but daydreaming can also be like rabbit hole kind of daydreaming, and that's thinking about thoughts and exploring that thoughts. And that is all manifesting one thing or another, right? Maybe nothing really big, but we're doing it all the time. When we're actually present in where we are, then we have the focused information of all that there is right there. And that's the only thing we can really have is what we have right there, right? That's the only thing that we have that we can control. But then there's the other there's are the people who are wandering in scattered energy, right? And in thinking about what other people are thinking, and thinking about what other people are intending and doing. And that takes away our power to affect ourselves. But when we are focused, then we can actually put that focus toward the source and things that are connected to the source. And then we can help heal others. So here's another thing that we do as humans. We pray. When somebody or something is hurt or or we want something greater for it, and we pray, and lots of people pray, then that is focused energy toward a certain end and towards certain change. And that's a group manifestation. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that source is not real, and that source isn't anything that you believe in. Because the fact is, it is, and we humans just put names to things. Every thing with any language puts names to what is. But before we put a name to it, it was what is. That state of being in what is the connection to source. This is a very philosophical, right? There's a lot of what I talk about that's really super philosophical. And I appreciate that Gregory Liverpool came right while he was in the stadium. That's awesome. Enjoy that game. Be where you are. Come back. Be on Team Replay. I love Team Replay. It's wherever you're focused on. I'm on Team Replay a lot because I will focus on something. I'll say, yeah, I'm coming, and even if I can't be there, and I go back to it, because I've focused on it, I go back to it and I watch it. And that's something beautiful that we have right now. When you have this connection to YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, and you're focused on it, then that becomes your community, right? But there's a bigger community that we're all part of, and that's just the community of the energy of being alive. The Jedi Code is about presence in that life, presence in that energy, presence in that spark. And you are that spark. And your spark is no lesser than anyone else's spark. You just need to fuel it. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and drop in the comments things about what you think about the Jedi Code. Maybe you connect more with the Sith Code. Maybe you feel like there's more power in one or the other. Drop it in the comments and let's keep the conversation going. This has been Healing Between Thoughts. And yes, Aaron, I am on YouTube, and I'm on YouTube right now. So thank you so much, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. This show happens about every 2 weeks on Sundays. This has been Healing Between Thoughts. I appreciate you. Bye.